beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, people living in part of Milton Keynes are raising concerns over plans to demolish their estate as part of a wider regeneration scheme. Residents of Slade will get a vote next year on a number of different options for the future of the estate, which is the first of 7 to be given a makeover. The £1 billion regeneration scheme for the whole of Milton Keynes will last 15 years and involve 20,000 residents. Now, our reporter Andy Holmes has been taking a tour of Slade with Barrie, Wilde, who is the chair of the local Residents Association.
Slade started to be developed in 1971. The actual houses are built out of no fines concrete, so they're incredibly strong. They're big houses. The total dwellings on the estate is 453. That comprises 278 Milton Keynes Council stock, 175 private. But people are great, actually. I mean, it's a great community. I love it. But we're going into Weavers Hill. We're on the west side of the estate, which basically runs parallel to the V4, which is Watling Street.
We've got sort of red tiling on the outside, and it's sort of brown, looks like a wooden top. Are these an unusual build?
They're iconic, actually, for the 1970s. You can usually tell which is private and which is not private, usually by the gardens, the amount of work that people are prepared to do.
I've got Julie here, who's been a resident for 32 years in Slade, so this regeneration, presumably it's going to affect you. So what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't like the houses to be knocked down because I think they're a nice size house and doing them up would be ideal.
So we've now moved on to the Spider Park. Can you tell us a little bit more about this area?
The children's play area over there, the spider element, it's been here about 15, 20 years. It needs to be redeveloped for children of, say, 7 to 13, 14. Over in the far corner, you've got the little tiny tots, little secured area. But what you will see is there's a complete lack of seating and tables and soft landscaping, flowers, etc. We want to bring old people, disabled people, family groups. We want to make this park the real hub.
Barrie, my stomach's starting to rumble. It must mean that we're in a place of food. So where exactly are we?
We're at George's Fish Bar. Basically it's a community hub in Slade, and we find out an awful lot from Vince, who's standing right by the side of me.
What's your reaction to the regeneration? What have people been saying to you?
Well, everybody believes that there's a plan already in place. Most of them heard it from the radio, and the radio was down here at 7 o'clock in the morning asking people for their opinions when they hadn't even been notified by your MK.
What would you like to see done as part of this regeneration?
For me, they need to clear up the area a little bit. There's a lot of overgrown trees and bushes. They're very nice in certain places, but if you're going to put trees and you're going to put bushes everywhere, they need to be looked after. Some of the houses, I think, probably do need to be demolished, but they shouldn't overbuild on Fuller's, because it's probably one of the nicest looking estates if all the bushes and trees and everything's kept clean.
Right, we are stood in front of a green field area which is surrounded by trees. Now, apparently at one point this wasn't just a green field.
No, this was the Slade pub, part of the community back in 1973. It didn't get the trade that it really required to stay open, so in the early 80s, eventually it shut down, but became a nightclub called the Cavendish. To put a nightclub in a housing estate like this was never going to work, and eventually it got shut down and pulled down, and as you can see it's now this greenland. There's no other social outlets. We have the Rowan Centre, which is basically children and adult family centre. So I think the Rowans could be used far more to become the main social hub now.
So Georgina, tell us your story with Slade then.
It's been ups and downs, to be honest, between stabbings and arguments and things that have happened on the street. The only thing that really bothers me is the rubbish, is that it gets dumped out the front and then it will stay there for 6 months. And I know that they're planning to build some other houses out the back, but my only worry with that is I don't want to lose all of the green that's out the back and all of the trees.
You've talked about stabbings. Is that a massive concern for you, or is that just something that happened once?
No, there's been 2. One directly where we're standing and another one in the next door's driveway. Although these things are personal, you never know nowadays, so you know, it's just, as a parent in the whole estate, I'm sure it is a concern when it's near to home.
What would you like to see done?
I don't know, someone mentioned the idea of dropping it down into a 2-storey. As long as I keep the 3 bedrooms, nothing sort of bothers me. Obviously I wouldn't want to lose too much parking, because parking can be a nightmare out here anyway, For me, it's just having the greenery and the extra space for the kid. You know, I can take the kids out the back safely without the main road.
You've been here more than 40 years, Barrie, so as a resident of Fuller Slade, what is your take on this whole regeneration idea?
I love living here. I hate the word regeneration. I'd rather it is called the Renaissance. Fuller Slade's had a bad rep for years. It's unfounded. When the planner came up recently, he was told, watch out, there's drugs, etc. In all the months and months and months of litter pit, we've never found a needle. It's a reputation which goes outside by people who've never bothered to step foot inside. It's about the 453 dwellings on Fuller Slade saying what they want, and that it is delivered with high quality, with speed, and that everybody is in a win-win situation. I don't want to see any losers on this estate.
And that was our reporter, Andy Holmes, there talking to Barrie Wilde, who is the chair of the local residents association at Fuller's Slade. We're going to have more on that story throughout our show this morning.
The number of houses on an estate in Milton Keynes could triple as part of regeneration plans for the new city. Residents of Fuller's Slade will get to vote on a number of options next year, including demolishing and replacing the whole estate. David Gleeson from Your MK, who are responsible for the project, says there's plenty of space for development.
At the time when the Development Corporation built this estate, land was very cheap, land was very plentiful. That was the whole principle behind the development of the city. This estate is probably built at a density of about half of what would currently be consented for on new developments in Milton Keynes.
People living in a part of Milton Keynes are raising concerns over plans to demolish their estate as part of a wider regeneration scheme. Residents of Fuller's Slade will get a vote next year on a number of different options for the future of the estate, which is the first of 7 to be given a makeover. The £1 billion regeneration scheme for the whole of Milton Keynes will last 15 years and involve 20,000 residents. These residents in Fuller's Slade are worried about losing valuable space.
Moving out, they'll have to carry me out. I just don't want to move. I won't move. Unless, well, of course, if I have to, I have to, but I'll be one of the last to go. Why would I want to move? Be a stranger anywhere else?
I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't like the houses to be knocked down because I think there are 95,000. Doing them up would be ideal.
Some of the houses, I think, probably do need to be demolished, but they shouldn't overbuild on Fuller's because it's probably one of the nicest looking estates if all the bushes and trees and everything's kept clean.
We built this community, and if they decide to bring in more houses and things like this, they would destroy this community because they would put too many people on here. It's my palace, it's my home. Do you know what I mean? It's not just bricks and mortar, that is my home.
Someone mentioned the idea of dropping it down into a 2-storey. As long as I keep the 3 bedrooms, nothing sort of bothers me. Obviously, I wouldn't want to lose too much parking because parking can be a nightmare out here anyway. For me, it's just having the greenery and the extra space for the kids. You know, I can take the kids out the back safely without the main road.
Well, listening to that is Milton Keynes Labour councillor Charlie Wilson, who is pushing for a yes or no vote in the referendum next year. Good morning to you, Charlie.
Morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, residents are clearly concerned, as we can hear there. What can you do or say to reassure them?
Well, I think it's what we are doing, which is pushing for a yes-no referendum. At this stage, the options that will happen are unclear and still being refined. So I think the fact that when it comes to it, whatever final option is put forward, there will be a yes or no vote should, I hope, reassure that if it is an option that they, on balance, don't feel they can get behind, that they can vote no and reject.
Okay, next March, the residents of Fuller's Slade will be given 3 options, aren't they? But they're effectively all involving demolishing the homes.
Yes, the EuroMK put forward a range of options, as you say, ranging from full demolition to, I think, possibly a full refurb option. But all of which involving substantial new builds. And it's worth saying on those 3 options that I think they're still subject to more resident input and more refinement of that. The point of this yes-no vote, though, is that the 3 options will be narrowed to 1 option. Whichever that final option is, there will be a yes-no vote on that.
But if everyone votes no, then as far as the council is concerned, that's not an option, though, is it? They're not going to do it if everybody votes no.
If everyone votes no, to
Sorry. We're trying to get you back there, Charlie. We seem to have lost you there. We're trying to get Charlie back there. The signal just cut out. This is all about the people that live in part of Milton Keynes who are raising concerns over plans to demolish their estate as part of a wider regeneration scheme. It's going to take 15 years and involve 20,000 residents. So it's a big old thing, isn't it, Ollie? Big old thing.
Yeah, it's a huge undergoing for the council, and so this is the first of 7 areas. So there's other areas that are then going to be looked at. Well, other areas that are going to be done as well. So this is the first of the 7, and you can understand residents' concerns. If you've been living in your house for whatever state and conditions that the houses around them might be, and lots of residents are saying they're fine and they're going to continue to be fine. If it's your home and it's where you've lived and you know your neighbours and you know your community, of course you're going to be seriously worried about the possibility of those houses being knocked down, you being moved elsewhere. I was going to say, what are they going to do with those residents that are there? Are they going to put them in temporary accommodation, I presume, rebuild them, move them back in? I don't know how's that going to work. Well, potentially, but these things, as you know, these things take years and years and years, and there's no guarantee, I guess, that the housing there's going to be the number of houses that there were before there, and the people are necessarily going to go back to where they were, and some might be done up and might become more expensive, and
so they could get moved out and then not even get back in.
So that's the concerns, I think.
Oh yeah, I can understand that's a joke. Oh, we got Charlie back. Welcome back, Charlie. We seem to have lost you there, but we got you back.
Great. Yep.
So just before you went, I just said that if everyone votes no, then as far as the council is concerned, that's not an option, is it? If everyone votes no, are they not going to do it?
If everyone votes no, I think we'd have to consider a much more basic option that will likely involve just refurbishing the existing houses. So I think you're right. I think we need to clarify what a no vote means. But for me, it's much more important that we say to residents, this really will be resident-led, and if what eventually comes forward is not something you can get behind because of, demolition or because of the except new building or because of whatever, residents have the final say. So I think it might cause a problem for the council, but at the end of the day, we're saying regeneration has to be resident-led, so they have to be able to say no to the final option if they want.
What have residents been saying to you then, Charlie?
Hearing a great deal of concern. I've been hearing a great deal of concern about the options that are being proposed, as with your other speaker, the extent of demolition, the extent of new building on what is currently green space, and of course the concern that a resident may be moved into a new house that is smaller or in some way worse than what they've currently got. I mean, there's a whole range of concerns coming through, and on top of all of the specific concerns, there's just kind of general anxiety because, of course, the options are still being refined, so it's still not exactly clear what's going to happen. And so a lot of people have said to me, for example, do I even do to my house if it's all going to get knocked down anyway? So I think the uncertainty causes a lot of anxiety in itself. So for all of those to try and help put some control back in the hands of residents, that's what we're. Sorry, Carol.
No, because we were just discussing it while we were trying to get you back on the line. Is that these people, obviously the residents are going to get moved out while they do the regeneration, but there's no guarantee that they'll be moved back in, is there? That's what probably they're looking for as well, isn't it?
It's a good point. Actually, the motion we're putting on Wednesday also covers that. So we would be looking to guarantee that every resident would get a house back on the estate, and ideally moving, people who want to continue to live next door to each other, live next door to each other in a new set of housing. So simply put, yes, residents of Fuller Estate should still remain residents of Fuller Estate, especially if they're building more houses than are currently there. There's really no excuse for that to not be the case. And also we've included things like a room guarantee. So if a resident is currently in a 3-bedroom house, they should be moved into a 3-bedroom house. A lot of these guarantees are covered in the motion we're putting. And again, all with the general idea of trying to reduce some of the anxiety and some of the uncertainty that residents are feeling.
I mean, some of the residents have told us that the council is deliberately letting the estates become run down so this regeneration scheme happens. Have you heard similar?
Yeah, I have heard that, and I don't believe that to be the case, but I have certainly heard that as a concern. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of residents would accept that there needs to be some degree of at least housing work done to the houses there. So I think there needs to be at least some refurbishment. However, there is an amount of money the council has for refurbishment. It's therefore that could still happen. The thing about regeneration is meant to go beyond that. It's meant to help improve things like health, education and employment. Although obviously the conversation has been drawn into the housing in particular.
Well, Charlie, I appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you very much. Apologies for the dodgy phone line. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers, pal. Thank you. That was the Milton Keynes Labour councillor, Charlie Wilson, there, who's pushing for a yes or no vote in the referendum next year. And once again, apologies there for the dodgy phone signal, but we got him back eventually.
Milton Keynes Council says the public ballot is vital.
I think we're the first council to offer a binding yes-no referendum for regeneration, and I think that puts the onus on Milton Keynes Council and your MK to get it right. I don't want to fail, but I think the backstop is that referendum to make sure we won't fail.
Residents of Fuller's Slade will get a vote next year on a number of different options for the future of the estate, which is the first of 7 to be given a makeover. Now, the £1 billion regeneration scheme for the whole of Milton Keynes will last 15 years and involve 20,000 residents. David Gleeson is from Your MK, which is the company behind the plans.
We've got a very comprehensive engagement programme operating locally. There are a range of consultants who've been appointed specifically to help us deliver on that. We can't do all of that ourselves. We have independent resident advisors who have been recruited by us but selected by the residents. We have capacity building consultants working with us. We have master planners working with us. And there have been a series of events where we'll work up through a proper co-design process to work and look at the options that are available to us here.
At the other end of the scale, we've had residents today saying, why should this be community-led? We live in our houses, we're happy in the houses, and we don't want to have to think about, redesigning this estate. What would you say to those people?
I would like to understand if they've been part of the process, and if they have engaged, fantastic. If they haven't engaged, I would like them to come out and meet us and actually to understand their concerns. It has to be a community-led process. We cannot be seen to be doing things to people. They have to determine what the future looks like for them. It's their community.
You look around this estate, you see all of the green spaces. I mean, it's a feature of Milton Keynes as a whole. People are worried that we're going to see new houses on this estate, and therefore, where is the green space going to be?
You're absolutely correct. There is a significant proportion of this estate that's currently green open space. I think what's important to understand, whatever options we come up with for the estate have to be viable. They have to be viable long term, so the public realm has got to be maintained to a high quality, but it's also about rationalisation. There's a lot of probably underutilised open space on the estate, and that's got to be factored into what we're determining going forward.
So it sounds like we're not ruling out building houses on some of that green space.
No, and I think it would be foolish to say that we're not.
Now, listening to that is Fuller's Slade resident, George Bard, and he joins with the line now. Good morning to you, George.
Good morning, Andy.
So, do you feel assured by what you've just heard there?
Definitely not. I have been told several different stories by members of your MK, and each time it varies. It seems the staff that are being sent around by your MK are either not given the picture or they're just salespeople, saying what they think people want to hear. I attended one of the events, and in the morning I turned up, I had my shirt and tie on. One of the staff told me one thing, came back that evening with my wife. I had changed, I was finished work at that time. I had on a tracksuit, and I was told a completely different thing by the same member of staff who didn't recognise me from being there that morning. So what they're actually doing is they're judging people on appearance, and they're telling people what they think they want to hear to obtain their objective. Because at the end of the day, your MK have got one objective, and that is to make as much money as possible for mayors, the builders behind your MK.
But your MK are doing their best, they're saying, to consult with the residents. I mean, they insist that this is a community-led process. Do you get the feeling that the community are
The community are being ignored. Your MK aren't talking to the community, they're talking at them. They're telling them, this is what's going to happen. You can pick what we say your choice is going to be. Where are the elected representatives? They have formed a resident steering group. Now, the resident steering group are non-elected. We have a residents committee Residents Association that have been elected. Why are the Residents Steering Group not working along with the Residents Association, an elected body? The Residents Steering Group are taking a direction from your MK, seemingly.
Just coming back a little bit, George, and just dealing with yourself personally. I mean, whereabouts do you live? Does your house need regeneration?
No, I bought this. I have 2 years left in my mortgage. I'm a stone throw from 60, and I don't want somebody coming along at this time of my life, turn around and saying, right, we're taking your house, we're going to give you a smaller house, you're going to owe us a balance of what we say our house is worth, not what our house is worth, what they say it's worth. You're going to owe us 50,000, 70,000. You have a smaller house, you have nowhere for your car. That's a community parking area, so anyone can park there. The land, we have no gardens. My daughter lives next door. My grandchildren come back and forward house to house. We knocked the 2 gardens. We took a fence down between the 2 gardens, so my grandchildren have got a large garden they play on. That's all going to go.
And is that the thing, George? There's no reassurance, there's no guarantees that you're going to get a house with a green space with a lawn and stuff like that. You don't know what you're going to get back.
They're asking people to decide on something that hasn't been shown to them yet.
Sure.
They're looking for people's, and they're actually, each person they meet, they're saying what they think that person wants to hear.
So you must be pleased then about the referendum next March that gives you the yes or no.
I would like to commend Councillor Wilson on the fact that he's the first councillor that has actually stood up and said we need a vote on this, because at the end of the day the council seemed to have stood back, handed everything to your MK and said we're washing our hands of it, you deal with it.
George,
I'd like to tell the council, you're elected there to represent us, you deal with it. Don't give it to a profitable company.
But George, are you in the minority? I mean, are your neighbours with you, or is there a feeling of actually people are wanting this, are wanting regeneration, and wanting new homes?
The thing people want is the council-owned houses have been neglected over the past few years, because there was a referendum here, I think it was about 13, 14 years ago, and the referendum said no. People all voted no. The minute that happened, the area was neglected. So I'm not saying it is, but it looks on appearance that someone in the council has decided, right, you voted against us, we could have made a lot of profit there, so you're getting nothing.
But I have to say, George, that is your own opinion. There is no evidence of that. And also, can I just say, have they said to you, if it does happen, where you will go while the building process is happening?
We've had several different suggestions, but there's been no facts given.
Okay.
That's a lack of information, a lack of clarity.
It does sound like, for something that is so big, it's going to take 15 years and involve 20,000 residents, a bit more meat on the bone, for want of a better word, a bit more, information about where people are going to go, how long it's going to take, what am I moving back to, what will I owe money-wise, etc. That information seems to be somewhat lacking, doesn't it?
It's very lacking, because we're getting different stories. If we got the one story and it was down up as fact, people could then work around and judge what they want, but nobody can judge what they want. 90% or more of our residents would be quite happy if their house was kept up to date, as the council's responsibility as they do, which it hasn't been.
George, appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you very much indeed. That was George Wilde, who's a Fuller's Slade resident. And